Welcome back to Hasbro's Hyde. Thought I'd show you real quick some upgrades we're doing to our 6.5 Grendel. The first thing is an anti-cant bubble. Adding that to help stop or help reduce our groups horizontally. There's some diagonal component that can help too with that. But I have this on the other rifles and it does help. So I've added it now finally to this one. So that should help. And then let me show you what else we're doing to our rifle. The other upgrade I'm doing, I decided to do, is to change the muzzle breakout. Now this is a different style. You know, it's similar, I guess, in concept to what we had before, but it's a lot lighter, smaller, different angles on the break, things like that. So we're going to change the muzzle breakout, see what it does, see if the harmonics change a little bit. There were just some occasional kind of funny sounds I was hearing with this one on the front, and I don't know if it's just me or not, if I was getting any strikes. I just can't see any strikes in there if you see around there, but just some odd things happening. And so probably not related to that, but I thought, well, hey, why not? Firearms had this on sale. It was cheap, and so why not? And then of course I have the heavy tanker one we can put on there at the opposite extreme. So at least now for testing we'll have a lightweight muzzle brake, a more moderate muzzle brake, and then a really heavy one if we want to sort of check some generic changes in harmonics at the end of the barrel. So anyway, I just thought I'd show you that, and we're going to shoot that this time through. Alright, so for today's shooting, what we're going to do is we're going to load up 82.8 XBR and H322. We've used these powders before in the BCA barrels and a couple different bullet combinations with CCI 41 primers. And so we're going to do that again, but now we're going to move to using this 120 grain ELD match bullet. Now, this is a bullet that comes by recommendation of watching Johnny's Reloading Bench's videos, and so if you haven't seen those, check them out. They're excellent work and excellent videos. And he has a Faxon 18-inch heavy profile barrel that he's been shooting these in. So will he do the same in our 22-inch Wilson Combat barrel? I don't know. We'll see. Hopefully, but as many things are, each barrel tends to like different combinations, or they can anyway. And so we're going to check them out though, because he just got ridiculously good results with this, and so we're going to check them out. So we'll be shooting those two powders and that bullet. Now, the other thing we have here is the Nozzler Custom Competition. Now, why is this box here? Okay, well, it's their match grade, if you can see that well. It's their match grade ammunition. This was expensive. At least to me it is expensive. $32 plus some shipping for 20 rounds. Well, why did I pay that? Yeah, because I'm an idiot. I went to order and I saw Nozzler Custom Competition 123 grain bullets, and I thought that's going to be awesome. We can shoot those side by side to the Monster match bullets, which we just shot in the last video, and have a head-to-head comparison, because they're supposed to be Monster. They're supposed to be the Monster match bullets are supposed to be Nozzler Custom Competition in bulk. Well, like an idiot, I didn't read the fine print, and what do I get? Loaded ammo. And it wasn't the mistake of the company I dealt with, it was my own mistake. So here we go. So nonetheless, we're going to have some high-end ammunition, right? Some expensive ammunition to run through our rifle, and we'll see how it does. Hopefully it does real well. If it does real well, then we'll think about doing another series on just this ammo and perhaps trying to duplicate its performance. But anyway, so that's going to be in the mix today as well. So look forward to shooting these, and we're going to have some fun with this today and see how we do. Alright, it'll be a little bit noisy here, but I thought I'd show you the chamfering and deburring we've done. I've already checked the overall case length, and it is fine. The trim to length is 1.510 inches, and they were all within a couple thousandths of that, so that's good. There were two that were about 3 thousandths longer, and so they were trimmed to bring them back in the mean dimension there. So we just put it on here, and that'll give it a little bit of a twist. I don't know if you can see it well with my big hand in the way, but a little bit of twist to help even out any imperfection or angular holes that you have on there, and make your chamfer more consistent and smooth. And so you see it in there is a really good job. This is the Hornady Duo, Case Prep Duo. It's really inexpensive. I think it's maybe $50 or something like that, but it's just done an excellent job for me now for quite a while. So that's what we're going to do that for. Now, one other thing to notice is these are twice fired cases, and they have been annealed. But you normally would see the annealing discoloration here. But in fact, what I've done is I have annealed them, and then I've lubricated them and sized them, and want to get all that lubrication off, so then I wet tumble them. Well, when you wet tumble them, the pins, steel pins, and the soap and etc. will remove that oxidation layer off there. And so you don't see it, but they have been fully annealed. So we'll finish this up, and then they'll be ready to prime and load. Alright, so one thing we wanted to check here as well is overall length of our new Wilson Combat barrel and chamber, and then also cartridge space to ogive maximum. So we can, from these things too, we can calculate how much jump we're getting maximum from our from our length that we load to, and then also versus the maximum that could be had within the chamber. And so what you'll do is you slide this in from the back until you fully engage it, the chamber, fully seat the case, and then this has an internal rod, and so you bring this back and loosen this knob up and bring this back, and then the bullet is then inside of that. So what you'll do then is you just simply put this all the way into your chamber, push this forward until you feel it hit the lands, tighten the collar, and then you can pull it back out. Sometimes the bullet stays in there and you just have to knock it back out with a cleaning rod, no big deal. But then you get a bullet comparator for the caliber you're using, and you put it in here and you can drop, and now you can measure maximum cartridge space to ogive. Now our rifle here, I've already done this and messed with this, is 1.744 inches. And so that's fine. And so then the cartridge space overall length, I should say, is 2.286. And so now we know our maximum. So if I loaded to the normal maximum cartridge length, and we can measure cartridge space to ogive, we know what this is now, 1.744 maximum cartridge space to ogive, and we can tell how much the bullet has to jump before engaging the rifling. That's also useful though in determining throat erosion, and so we can tell how much we're wearing the entrance of where our bullet engages the rifling and leaves and travels down the bore. So anyway, we have our data, and we'll be able to note that and compare back and keep track of that information. Alright, determining our powder levels today, reference the Hornady book, but it does not have data for 828 XBR or H322, so we're looking elsewhere. And so this is the Lee 50th Anniversary Edition reloading book, and I reference it quite often as well. And so it has both H335 and as well as 828 XBR. Problem is that when I compare this back to another good known reference, and that would be the Sierra load data here, which I get online, the maximums are quite a bit different. So here it shows for 123 grain bullet, which is our closest reference to our 120s, 28.5 grains. Now the Sierra though, for the 120 grain bullet weight, show 27.4 is the maximum for 8208 XBR. And so we're going to stop at 27.4. And we'll go down in 0.3 increments from there. So we'll go 27.4, 27.1, 26.8, 26.5, and then finally 26.2. And so that's fine. That's what we'll do, and take our notes and keep track in the logbook here of exactly what we're doing. So then the other question is H322. And so H322 starts here in the Lee book. It maxes out at 27.5. Now H322 on the Sierra data maxes out at 25.8. And so we'll do the same thing. We'll go to 25.8 and go down 0.3 increments for H322, and we'll try that. So we'll get these loaded up and get our bullets seated, and then we'll get off to the range. Alright, we're going to start seating our bullets. Now we'll start with the lowest charge here of 8208, and it's our 26.2 level. So, but we'll back this seating stem way up, and then we'll seat and see how well we come out. We're wanting to get to an overall length of 2.260, and I can tell you by that look we're way off of that, so I'll come down some more, and now we'll take a measurement. We still should be way long, but I backed it out quite a bit. Yeah, we're 2.327, so we've got quite a bit yet to go, almost 100,000. So bring it down another 60 there, and just sneak up on it a little bit. 2.276 and a half, so we can come down 16 thousandths. So that would be 10, 15, and we'll do 16 about right there and see how close we come out on this one. Alright, so we got 2.257, which is fine. Let's see how we come out on our next one and see what our average is for a few bullets anyway. .255, so we're probably riding just a little bit low. We'll come up 3. We'll try it again. .260 and a half. All right, check one more and just make sure we're within a reasonable range. Well, there we're a little bit long, so maybe I shouldn't have adjusted, but that one at 2.255 is just too low. Come down a couple more and we'll see if we can hit that average then, somewhere around 259 to 260, something there probably is where our average is going to fall. We go 261 and a half. We'll do one more here. There we go. 2.259 and a half. So I think that's good. Now let's check our top load of 8028 XBR. See if we're compressing or not. So that's 27.4 grains. Didn't feel that way. And I do not hear powder shaking though, so there's not a lot of room in there. Maybe you can feel just a little bit of room left in that case by shaking it. And we're at 2.257, so I would suspect we are not compressing. We'll do one more here and check that out. .258 and a half, perfectly good. So at the high end of 8028 XBR, we're not compressing. So let's check the high end of H322. And I'm confident we will not be, based on what I'm looking at in the volume of the case. Yeah, 2.258, so we're good. Now one thing to note, I think I may have said previously that we're doing 25.7 grains of H322, but in fact I went a tenth off max, so we're at 25.6 down to 24.4. So we'll finish seating the rest of these bullets, and then we'll see you at the range. What I had mentioned before, we were going to check our cartridge-based ogive. So we've settled on where we're seating for overall length, and now we'll check cartridge-based ogive. And so it is 1.713 to 1.713 and a half. I have several here that I've checked along that line, and they all fall within, well, basically within a thousandth, 1.714. So with that, then, that means we're jumping about 30 thousandths, 31 thousandths from our loaded magazine length here to our rifle lands. So we'll track that, see how well we do. We can probably bump these out just a little bit depending on the magazines that I use to get them a little closer, but we'll see. But anyway, we'll be starting with the 31 thousandths jump with this bullet and load. Alright, back in from the range and just doing a quick check of our brass. So here is our 828 XBR, and really nothing to look at. All the primers are decent. These are just starting, the upper charger just starting to show a little bit of flatness to them. Well, at least a little more than here, but there's still, the edges are rounded, and there's no other signs of ejector smears or anything like that. So that part looks fine. Then we go to H322. Well, it's the same story. Not as high a pressure, I don't think, with this powder, with the loads anyway that we chose, and seems to be okay. I don't see any signs of any kind of case head damage, extractor or ejector marks or smears. All the brass in general looks pretty good. I don't know if you can see this one right here though, and we'll see if we can get it maybe in the right light. But this is one of those I was telling you about. There are some unusual marks on the case head on this bulk brass, and if you see it right here, there is this sort of a wrinkle look right along here, and this one makes me think this bulk brass really isn't up to the par of normal production, because all the factory ammo, none of it had that, and almost all of the bulk brasses had that. So just that to sort of look at. I'd mentioned it in the last video, and there was one example there. I don't know if you can see that. Hopefully you can. But I thought I mentioned that. So anyway, so our brass looks good overall. Now here's our nozzler brass. This brass is, well, it's good. Everything should be from the factory. But actually the primers are pretty flat. They're not terrible. I mean, they're still rounded edges, but they're flattened out more than what we did in our unloads. The velocities, you know, they weren't so bad. I'll post them at the end here with our target with all the data on it. You know, they weren't so bad, but I was just sort of surprised to see flattened primers. It just could be they have a softer type primer. But did it live up to the claim here? They say incredibly uniform velocity, exceptional accuracy, extremely flat trajectory. Well, the flat trajectory, maybe. Exceptional accuracy? Nah. Not by my experience. But I did have one target that started to group pretty good, and then had one flyer come out of it. So, yeah, I think there's actually still some hope in this. You just continue to shoot maybe with our rifle as it breaks in. Shoot this again maybe in the future. We're going to continue to shoot this brass, and we'll track it. We'll see how many firings we get out of this. We'll anneal it before we resize it and all that sort of stuff, and keep this in really good shape. But we'll check that out, and just see how our nozzler brass ends up in life. So that's our brass. Let's take a look at our target. Again, I'll post after this short segment all the numbers so you can see the measurements and velocities and things like that. But some interesting results. We started shooting, of course, with the nozzler match ammo here first, and it was way high. In fact, it was putting bullets into our targets here. There are two here, one here, and then I changed the scope to bring it down. So when you see the numbers at the end, I did not count these bullets because I was moving the scope, but I did pull these out, and we have the values then for that group. But yeah, so not so great. And then we had the next 5. This is the first 5, warm the gun up. Next 5 here, a bit of horizontal stringing, which was odd. No adjustment on the scope or anything like that. And then the third group, it's like, well, that was starting to be really encouraging. These are the first 3, and then 2 low. And I don't know how to explain the 2 low, except maybe the gun was getting hot. I don't think so, because I grabbed it with my hand. It was fine to hang on to. It was warm, obviously, after shooting 10, 13 rounds here, but I don't know. But it did the same thing twice, and consistently. Well, then I moved up here, and we shot the last 5 rounds up here. And again, it's the same thing. I had a really nice group going, and then we threw one out low and right. So this one, I don't know. I don't think it was me. I felt like it was a good trigger pull on it, but I'll tell you later on, maybe it could have been me. I don't know. So the nozzler, I think it's good ammo. It seems to be. It seems like it can shoot in this gun, but there are these occasional flyers out here that I'm struggling to explain, especially these two. This one, I could blame me a little, but I don't know. we'll see. What I was doing was, in these rounds, when we got to H322, I had a lot of failure to feed issues all of a sudden. I don't know if it's because these are lower power. I don't think they were that much lower. We haven't had any issues so far with the gun related to that. So it could be it's just getting dirty. With all of these rounds and all, this puts it about 150 rounds or so since I've cleaned it last. It shouldn't be that bad. I did clean the chamber, though, when we did our measurements today for the overall length measurements. But I didn't clean the rifling or anything like that, but that's not this problem. But the bolt and bolt carrier group and all that, and back in the upper receiver, probably needs to be cleaned by now. And who knows, maybe some of these are burning a little bit more dirty than others and causing a problem. So anyway, maybe that could explain this, because to make a long story even longer, when I was shooting these and having these failure to feed, it was getting really frustrating, because I'm shooting dented cases, severely dented cases. I probably shouldn't have shot them, but I did, like an idiot, and got by with it today. But even with that, and these and scarred bullets, because when it was slamming shut, not picking up the round properly, etc., we still shot some okay groups. I think they could have been much better without disrupting me, my timing, my comfort on the shots, etc., and then damaging cases and bullets, which obviously will have an impact, especially, you know, this is 100 yards. It's not like it's up close or anything. So anyway, so that was all going on during this time. When it was going on during this time, and I had a failure to feed, it wasn't always obvious because the trigger reset, and I go to squeeze and I noticed myself jerking. And it's like, that jerk behind the trigger was back. And so I have to work on me again to stop that. So some of that could be certainly here, and you know, maybe it contributed to that one. I don't think these two, it's too consistent here. But anyway, so that was what was going on there. But up at the 82 XBR, our first group, yeah, not so impressive. The second group, yeah, it looks like it's trying to tighten up. And then we get to our third group here, and this is pretty good. There are 4 here, and then 1 up high and away. This one was up high and away. I felt like I squeezed a little bit left of center. I don't know that I went up, but it's hard to say, right? I mean, but I felt like it was pretty good about right there. But I mean, it's not terrible. It's not terrible, but it could be a lot better, I think. Here we have 3 running right through, trying to run through the same hole, and then 2 of these down and aways. So maybe this is me. So I think this area is definitely worth exploring again here with the Hornady 120 ELDs and 802 XBR. So I mean, they're not bad groups. I think they could be a lot better, and I think it's just a lot of settling down and focusing here on what I'm doing. This isn't bad. You know, there's 2 here, 1 there, 1 there, and again 1 up here. It could have been really good. So maybe you could just look at this whole upper range again and do another series through that. And I think I probably will, because 828 XBR is just a great powder, and then it's higher velocity than these, which could be good for hunting. So so now we get to H332, well, H322, and again, it's not too bad. This one, this one, and this one, and these 2 belong to the group down here. So here, here, and here belong down there, but this one, this one, this one, this one, and this one all belong to this group. So you know, that's a pretty good start, especially at the low end of our powder range. And then we move here, and actually the groups are quite similar. A little bit bigger group here, but you know, it's still kind of the same pattern if you see through here. Very similar anyway. And then we get to 25, and we see the same thing. It's ripping through the center, and then 2 low and right. This is what makes me think that this could be me, pulling down and away when I'm jerking on that trigger. So this whole area here, I think, is worth reshooting again in 322. This is our best group of the day, 0.7 MOA, and this felt like good squeezes, not too bad. So this was grouping pretty well, you know. But we're taking 0.3 powder jumps here, 0.3 grain powder jumps, and maybe some fine tuning in between could dial these in together, and maybe switching primers here could help tighten these up too. But at least we have good. You know, that's not a bad group at all. It really, none of these are really that bad at groups, but We're just trying to get some crazy good numbers. Certainly good enough for hunting or whatever you want to do here at 100 yards. You know, that's perfectly acceptable accuracy. But at 0.7, I think this could have been a lot better. So we'll probably shoot this again too. Shoot this group and that group. So you know, the numbers will be right after this, but I think I'd like to see that. So not bad result today at the range. I like the trend with the 120 ELDs and these two powders. I think we can refine it, make them even better. We'll start testing some powder ranges in here and changes some primers in here. But it makes me confident enough that I want to go out and order some more of these bullets. I just got one box to start, but when you see groups honing in like this, I think it's well worth getting more and exploring that a bit more. So you see the numbers here in just a minute, and then we'll see you next time.